Greetings, beloved. This is Apostle Armand Schroeder coming from our home office here, GHMI Fivefold Fellowship, and I want to address some things that was discussed by Bill O'Reilly concerning the actions of the officer in the death of Michael Brown, and the actions clearly stated by him of one that in this state, 99.9% of crimes that are reported are tried under our judicial system, and and basically they don't end in murder. Well, here's what I say to Mr. O'Reilly. Sir, before you make statements concerning what's right and wrong in this case, you need to look at the facts. The facts, one, is that, one, if we look at right and wrong, yes, I would agree with you that Mr. Brown's state of mind was that he had went to the liquor store to buy and or steal cigars, according to the video footage. But when does committing a misdemeanor in this state constitute the death penalty? Well, let's go even further, sir. When does even assault on a police officer without a deadly weapon constitutes the death penalty in the state of Missouri? Because before you answer that question, I pulled up the statute. Under the statute of Missouri, Chapter 565, offenses against a person or assault against a law enforcement officer, Clause 7 of that statute, sir, says, an assault of law enforcement officer, correction officer, emergency personnel, highway worker in construction zone or work zone, utility worker, cable worker, and probation and parole officer in the second degree is a Class B felony unless committed pursuant to subsections 2, 5, 6, or 7 of the subsections, or 1. Subsection 1 of this section, in which case it is called a Class C felony. For any violation of subdivision 1, 3, and 4 of subsection 1 of this section, the defendant must serve a mandatory jail time as a part of his or her sentence. And I'm reading this very quick, sir, so you can get a good gist of where the people are coming from. Let's go to Chapter 558 of imprisonment. It's just said in the other Chapter 565-082 that he must serve mandatory sentences. Well, Section 558-011 says, for a Class A felony, a terms of years not less than 10 years and not to exceed 30 years of life of imprisonment for a Class A felony, and it's still not the death penalty. For a Class B felony, sir, a terms of years not less than 5 years and not to exceed 15 years. For a Class C felony, sir, a term of years not to exceed 7 years. And for a misdemeanor, a term not to exceed 1 year. And for a Class B misdemeanor, a term not to exceed 6 months. And for a Class C misdemeanor, a term not to exceed 15 days. Well, sir, here's my comment to you. We don't know what took place in the car. That's still in speculation. That evidence have not been presented to the public, nor has it been presented to the media. So you cannot say in any way that because of this young man's actions that it caused his death. Because in any case The facts remain is that this young man was 35 feet away. That's fact. It's been reported. He was 35 feet away from the police officer when the police officer opened fire on him. He was unarmed. He posed no threat to the police officer. The police officer had many ways to deal with the situation. If he's injured, generally the protocol of a police officer in an assault situation will call for backup. He did not do that. He pulled his sidearm and he began to shoot at Mr. Brown. And when he shot him, Mr. Brown was at a facing direction to him, 35 feet away. It was impossible for Mr. Brown to cause a threat to him. And he was, according to protocol, should have been took into custody, booked under the laws of this state, and given his due process. But now, sir, you want us to give Mr. Darren Wilson his due process in court. But what about the due process for Mr. Brown now laying in the grave? So, as much as I don't agree with everything Al Sharpton says, but I do agree to the fact that Darren Wilson acted presumptuously in this situation. He acted in a manner, in my opinion, because of anger, because of this black male attacked him somehow at the police car. And in his anger and in the heat of the moment, he pulled his sidearm and he shot this boy 8 times. How is that when we supposed to have a justice system that says that those kinds of cases must be tried in court? And when do we administer the death penalty on the streets of our community? We don't need an officer doing that. We need an officer that would keep the peace. And what if, just for instance, that this officer missed and he would have shot another kid or an innocent bystander crossing the street at the same time he was shooting at Michael Brown? Then we would have been dealing with not only an injury or possibly even another death. So the problem is, sir, when you make those statements, yes, that a lot of these cases are tried in court. 99.9% of them are tried in court. True enough. But for the majority of the criminal profiling, it goes unreported. These are facts. And so it is my opinion, sir, is that you, before you make these judgment calls of running off at your mouth like you normally do with your opinionated self, and you just as bad as Al Sharpton, you need to look at all the facts and weigh at the conscience of the situation and the morality, because that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with morality and we're dealing with the consciousness of the situation. And this boy that you say is an African American, which he is, did not deserve to be administered the death penalty for a Class B or possibly a Class C misdemeanor or a Class B felony for assault. Sir, you need to be careful of what you say, because what if this was one of your sons? What if this was one of your sons that commit a crime? Because we got politicians that commit Class B. We got politicians that commit felonies all the time. They're in our legal system. There's corruption everywhere. So what we calling for when we say no justice, no peace, we're asking for justice, that it be served correctly, and that this officer, Darren Wilson, be tried under the same laws that he would administer to anyone else shooting another person unarmed. That's my statement for you, sir. And I challenge you to call me up. 636-395-0261. And I'll be willing to go on air and say this. Good day.